back at the bench on this lovely April day. It's a Sunday, it's Palm Sunday. Weather's nice, all of that. We got a couple of penguins here, so we're going to move them out of the way so they don't get injured. Put them over to the side. Got a nice coma. Got a really nice domo. Actually, this is also a really nice coma. It's a stripey. You can't see it washed out. Got this blade. I'm going to talk about this for a minute. Got this lovely rock that I've affectionately termed the best Jnat ever made. I laugh every time I take it out because it's so freaking awesome. It's like 6 by 3 and, like an inch thick. And, no stamps, no bullshit, no fucking sparkly kawa nonsense, huda, just solid performance, Has a couple of lines on the surface, but they're innocuous and kind of mizui, but surface is really nice for me. Anyway, first thing up, so I've been trying to keep my sanity. I'm working from home now because our business is doing that thing where, only essential people are going to be working, blah, 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 blah. So while I'm stuck inside and whatever, I'm doing a lot more honing and checking out a lot more stones. I didn't need stones from Japan, but I ordered a bunch because I have testing time. And hey, you know what? A couple extra stones is always a good thing. So I decided, I pulled this razor out, this wade, this very nice wade. If you take a look, right, shoulderless design, no stable and no shoulder, really nice. Just, it's pre-1890, right? Trying to get the glare out of the thing, and it's yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, there's no England, just Sheffield. Nice size tang though, not a shorty. Good size. Flip it around and I go in there. My finger fits really nice into that. Whereas sometimes, say for example, with this one, not a wade. I'll get to that in a minute. That tail's a little shorty. Now it's not really a stub. It's just short, not quite stub. Stub-like, stub-esque, whatever. That's a butler. This is a wade. So I had this in a box and I took it out and the scales were just jacked. All right. Now, if you look here, you can see there's there's a bend here. When 2 days ago, this was like a lasagna noodle. It was terrible. I don't know how the blade wasn't hitting things. It was just crazy. But I wasn't sure about the edge of the steel. There's a big chip in it. So I'm going to show you a couple of progressive photos that I took when I was honing out the chip. And I started with I had this lovely stone. It's a Sheffield Pro, and I know it's extreme, and it's their 120, Right? Beautiful, beautiful stone for doing heavy lifting. I know old timers don't like it when I pull out 120s, 220s, 320s, 500s. They're like, whoa, you used to set bevels with 4Ks. No, you set bevels with 4Ks. For me, 4K is a mid-range. All right? And that 4K people were touting was the Norton 4K, which isn't 4K. But I'd rather use a 1K. And they're they cry. And it's me, I'd rather do 10 laps on a 120 than 20 laps on a 220. I would rather do 20 laps on a 500 instead of 40 laps on a 1K. I would just use the stone the way it's supposed to be done. So progressively I honed up in grits, 120, 220 to 500, took the chip out, and at that point I was satisfied that the steel was good. Up until then I didn't know because there was so much micro pitting. Couldn't see it. There was no edge, no bevel when I got it. So once I had a bevel set and I looped it and then I scoped it, I could see the initial stage, the 120, it was riddled with pitting, So the edge was literally tattering. It was like a pinking shear all the way across. And I was like, I don't know if this one's going to make it, man. But I kept honing. And then by the time I got to the 500, I could see that I had established an edge that was a line. Yeah, there was striations. There was there was still going to be on the high magnification, some kind of like, sawtooth type of arrangement, but it was even. It wasn't erratic. It was stable. To me, it looked stable and it felt right. So that was the major thing. So once I had that, I came back here, taped the edge, and I started working on getting the blade out. The scales were so shot. They still kind of are, really. Someone had done some work on it, and this pin had been mushroomed but pushed into. There was a depression. It's still there, actually. Well, kind of there. Into the scale, so I had a hard time getting it out. So I cut it off, from the inside, with a piercing saw. And I'll show you a picture of that saw. And once I got it out, this was all munged up with like goo and gunk, and under here, and the scales was all full of crud, and the pivot hole was full of rust. It was just a disgusting nightmare. So I spent some time on the blade. I took all of the rust out of the jimps on top, which these are very prominent jimps, and I really dig them. And these are your typical under jimps that are a lot lighter. Now, they're still a little marked up, like they're not 100% bright, but they are 100% clean. The steel is clean. The hole is clean. I put in a new pivot pin. It's nickel silver. I used on both sides stainless steel washer to put a little extra bearing surface on this. Before I did that, though, I needed to work on the scales up here. These are all fissured and cracked and falling apart. So I did an epoxy fill. I clamped, I squeezed, I sanded, got it straightened out, cleaned up on the inside. They're not in great shape, but right now they feel stable enough to me. I don't feel like they're too flimsy to work with. So once I got them to this point where I was like, okay, you know what? They're not even. It's not going to sit right. It's on a little bit of an angle. One is damaged, but the cracks are sound because now they're filled. And they feel good. You can tell when horn doesn't like want to work with you. You can tell. It just feels like spongy shit. These are solid, all right? So I pinned it up, slapped it back, spent another, I don't know, hour. Maybe not quite an hour, but it was a good amount of time getting the scales to bend into the right shape. I mean, I did a little bit of that work before I pinned it in, but then I had to get the blade in, get it centered, and then start shaping. That's with heat and steam and various methods of applying pressure. Now that it centers, right, sanded down the end here. There's a little bit of damage here, not a big deal. If I get 5 years on these, I think I can. I think I can get 5 or 10 years. But even if I get 3, I'm happy because I saved the original scales. This is, basically as delivered. This pin is original. The lead wedge is original. This is what makes me happy. People want to go out and buy a gold dollar because it's cheap. And, I understand the need for things that cost less money. But I got to tell you, this wasn't expensive because it was chipped and it was beat up. And just to draw a picture, okay, gold dollar is like $5. Let's say this was $20. I would gladly spend $20 on this and put the work into it before I paid $5 for a gold dollar. I got to put 4 hours of work into just so I can get a decent bevel angle on it. This is 30, at least 130 years old. I expect grief. A new razor that needs 4 hours of work to straighten out, keep it. If you like them, good for you. I spend my money here. When I'm done, I have something I'm proud of. I have never been proud of a gold dollar. Never will be. So anyway, I worked on that, and then I honed her up, and I shaved with it that night, and I was really impressed. The edge is great. Steel took a really smooth edge. Very happy with this. This could be a daily driver. It's a 6/8 plus up at the toe, a little less at the back. I kind of like work the smile a little more towards the heel so that chip came out and I didn't lose too much dimension up at the toe. So there's that. You got to do what you got to do. You work with the issues, not against them. So anyway, so there's that. So today, Sunday, whatever, working on this, and check this out, put a new edge on it, smooth it out, because I've been working with it. I've been testing stuff and doing horrible things to this edge. Because you got to push the envelope, man. You just got to, you know. So I figured I would throw it on camera and do some honing. Well, I've been working with a new product that it's in my store right now, and Purple Haze. I turn the rock upside down so I don't get, this is wax. Well, it's a type of wax. Let's just call it wax. And it's my new sharpening compound, right? So it's kind of crazy, actually, because, you know, people are always wrapped up in grit and you know, particle size, and then you know, when you put a paste on a substrate and it's fixed and it stays there, it's not like, you know, grit from, you know, say a water stone. Just not, because it's fixed. It's like sandpaper in a way, but not quite. How much of it is there per square centimeter or whatever versus how much abrasive is in the stone? You know, you can go back and forth with this stuff over and over and over. So this is a 1.5K, and people want to know, okay, this is you know, 1500 grit. You know, what's the grit on this? And you know, I don't want to get like too nuts with it, because it doesn't mean anything. You're comparing apples and oranges, all right? Been a problem in this industry. I've done several videos on it, like the thing with the Arkansas stones and the 10 micron particle size, or the 6 micron, or the 7 micron, or the 10, or the 20. You know, it's like, stop already. Here we have this. So what's the particle size? I'm going to tell you it's under 0.09 micron. How far under? You don't need to know. It's far enough under that I can say that if you do a conversion, an online calculator, you will come up with 500K grit. Well, not exactly. It's actually over that, significantly over that. Let's just say it's between 400 and 600K, you know. I'm pretty sure this is the first sharpening compound, like, you know, produced specifically for guys honing razors, that is in this upper register. And it's a little nuts, I admit it, and it's really labor intensive, so I don't know how much of it I'm going to make. Now people ask, why did you make this when you have this, and why do you sell both of them? This is my, you know, Tomo Blue. I sell White Lightning, Tomo Blue, those are my three so-called finest abrasives. Oh, the Red Velvet's up there too. Thing is, they're all different. Each has its own fingerprint, okay? People are going to think the White Lightning, that is the smoothest, and there's a good reason for that. The blue is sharper, if you want to call it that, than the White Lightning, but not quite as smooth. So you have that, and they're two different materials, they're two different particle sizes, okay? And they're two different particle shapes, and they're two different particle densities. So the reaction is, you know, to the steel, the effect on the steel is different. Same with this, completely different thing altogether. And I'm kind of really impressed with it, you know? And it's not a natural stone. It's not going to be a go-to for me. It's just something I did because I could, and I'm still considering to make a barber hone at some point. And I think now with this product, I'm in a ballpark where I can say to myself that, okay, if I can convert the science here into something, you know, along the lines of a swati. Yeah, that's a swati. It's like the fattest swati anybody's ever seen, right? It's like an inch thick. It's crazy. So if I can convert that into something for a barber hone, like now I have something that's like so many orders of magnitude better than anything that's ever been used before. Now I can like sort of focus on it, because why make something the same? Why make something marginally a little bit better, or arguably, or, you know, why give the Nimrods of the industry the opportunity to sit there and go, well, you know, when I was younger, We didn't need to have such fine abrasives. Guys kill me. Anyway, so I've been experimenting with this, and I've been working this edge on it. So I'm at a state now with this edge where it's got to be zeroed a little bit. The bevel is still good. I just have this like striation confusion going on up at front. Anyway, so regularly the purple haze is like that big. You know, I forget how many grams it is, but it's a chunk. They're all different shapes and sizes, and some of the colors are a little more blue than purple. It's like product consistency is down pat. Visual consistency is another thing altogether. I got to make the stuff in an ice cube tray, and they cool at different rates. I don't have a lab. I have a kitchen. So there's that. And these two are test pieces for people who have yet to be chosen as, well, testers. 2 pieces are going out in the mail Monday, Tuesday to a couple of guys who know pastes. You know, I would like to hear their opinions on it, but with the mail and everything, I don't know what's going to go out exactly. So there's that. So anyway, before I get to honing, something I want to say, you know, people, talk about, well, how do I apply the paste and this and that and this and that. You know, if you're doing razors, like, okay, here's my strop for cutlery, right? I have this. This is loaded with Tomo Blue, right? Yeah, I've done razors on here, but not too many, and for good reason. There's too much paste on here. This is way too much paste. It should not look like this for a razor. This is just an experimental thing for razors, or more than likely what this gets used for on a daily basis is for tuning up a work knife. Work knife is something else completely different. So when you have a razor strop, right? See, he's got a little blue thing going on in there. I don't know. So this is a piece of webbing, right? And like I'm making these strops now. I'm making these strops for guys in my Etsy shop. So basically this is a nice flat G10 piece with a piece of webbing fixed on the top. And I have this end where you can put your thumb and so on and so forth. I'm making these in a number of sizes. And I put them in a little sleeve and we're good to go. Anyway, so that's that. So that's why I'm showing you the webbing here. Now, the reason I'm using the black is because the black is how the purple shows up best. I prefer to use the white because it shows the swarf best. But for showing this on camera, I'm going to sacrifice a little piece of black. So how much do I put on here? Well, I'm going to leave a mark here, right? So that I have a place to hold. That's it. All right, can you see that? That's it. If you wanted to do some more, that's like totally it. You don't need more than that. If you're applying paste to a strop, you shouldn't be looking at more than this. That's any kind of paste. Chromox, Diamond, Phiox, Cerium, Alox, doesn't matter, okay? And the reason you don't want a lot is because most pastes are like hyperactive. They're very hard, okay? The particles in here are very hard, all right? They're non-friable for the most part. They're sticking up and you're just dragging it over. And people are like, oh, I get this harsh feeling. Now, pastes are going to be harsh just because they're pastes. And then you go and you put too much on, like here, right? Here's my knife. I was using this before. I have a kitchen knife that I was working on. I was tuning up the edge. I've been doing a lot of cooking, So I use this for tuning up a chef knife. Now, I don't have to shave with a chef knife, and I use this basically to knock my burr down, my final burr on the apex. I have to go into like a 2K or a 4K. I try to remove as much of that final burr as possible on a finer stone, and it's a little tedious because I have to elevate the spine. But I can come in here and I can use this. But this is too much even for a razor. I could use it for a razor because it looks more than it really is, but it's still really too much. This is what I want to use. Okay. Yeah, I don't know where my actual strop with purple haze is at the moment. Yeah, I know where it is. It's in the kitchen. Anyway, it looks like this. All right. That's it. That's it. How many passes? 7. Start with 7. Start with 4, actually. 4 or 5. And if it's not doing the right thing for you, bump it a little bit. It's really easy to go over with pastes. I I gotta say, if you're doing like 10 passes or more, like something is not right. I don't. Everyone is different, and you may have a very worn edge or whatever. For starters, this is not for a worn edge. This is for an edge that's literally just off. This is very, 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 very fine. You are not going to want to use this to try and make up for a failing edge, right? Go back to an 8K, start there, and straighten out your edge, and then come to the paste if you want to do that. Tell people all the time, don't jump to a paste from a finisher. Try 5K, try 8K. You'd be surprised, especially with diamond. 5K to diamond to me is prime, and I don't like diamond, all right? But I can go from a lot of pastes to a lot of paste from a 5K and be exceedingly happy with how it turns out. Well, comparatively, you know what I'm saying? Now, this one got done on tape. Now, and this one started on tape, okay? I did all the chip repair on tape, and then I moved to no tape. You can tell already I don't need that much work here. So this is George Butler. I think the end's been cut back. The blade just looks shorter than it should be to me. So I'm going to guess it had a barber's notch at one time and somebody chipped the toe and they ground it back. But the job was done well, and this little point up here looks like it's all right. So I don't know. It's an advertising blade for some paper company up in New England. And I'm not certain, but I think it was like 1920s. Whatever it is, really, really good steel. I know it's a Butler. It doesn't say Butler on it, but there's a little art. What the word art? Where is it? It's over here. The word art in a circle. That's one of Butler's trademarks. Yeah, I can tell by the feel that the distractions I was feeling during the last shave with this was all apex. It was not something running up the bevel, because this is very smooth. It's so smooth that I'm starting to think I didn't really need to come to a coma. Now, normally, if I'm doing a full progression, if I'm going Botan, Tanjiro, Majiro, and then coma, I'm using less pressure than I am right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mitigate my pressure shortly and end up with that lightweight coma type of pressure, butterfly wing weight, that type of thing. People like to say, and I will say it too, less than weight of the blade. And I'm not going to have to go too far with this. This is a most excellent coma, and I don't need to do a ton of work because the edge was in a great place to begin with. But because we're just letting the edge skate. And it is this level of pressure, I'm going to go slow, where you want to check your undercut. And it is really hard to do this slow. It's easier for me to do it fast. Having trouble catching the blade has a little bit of a warp in the grind, so I'm having a little bit of trouble working on the forward pass and getting the toe. Yeah, I'm not catching it how I want to. I'm hitting. And sometimes if you're having trouble keeping contact, all you got to do is change the position of the stone or your arm's orientation to it. When you have blades with a warp in it, you literally have to work on different parts of the blade at different times. Well, I guess it depends on your technique. Some guys are just going to like smash it down and force it to fit. But my style is to do the blade in sections. So I'll focus on the toe. I'll actually bring the toe over here if the warp is in the middle so I can get like more of the blade on the stone. And so on. You will routinely see me do this on blades that have issues. See how I come across the stone? It's by design, not by whoops. Okay, we have a really good hit going and coming. Have a really good feel. So I'm considering this done. So I got some paper towel here that I've dedicated to honing. Paper towel is now a major commodity in the world. This probably has like value on the stock exchange. All the panic buyers, the Corona idiots, went out and bought all the paper goods. Just don't understand people, man. So there's that. Cleaned up. Tomo. Wee! Piece of Nakayama Namito. Rolled off. I like to make slurry this way. The issue here right now is that it's a very, 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 very hard stone, and it's also a very, 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 very hard tomo. That's good. For this honing cycle, this is good. For another full progression type, I would probably go with more slurry. Maybe, depends. I judge those things by feel. See how got warp here. Just got to deal with it. Now the pressure I start off with here is a little bit heavier than the pressure I ended up with on the coma. Now sometimes I'll go back to Majiro. In fact, a lot of times. And it might be overkill and it might not. In this particular situation, I'm confident that I didn't have to go any further back than coma. I mean, I've only honed like a gazillion blades with this, so it's like I kind of know, you get a feeling for stuff. I hone like literally every day. I'm sharpening stuff all the time. I did 3 kitchen knives today, a couple of razors already. I got blades everywhere. Working from home, so I put in a full day of work, and then I find working from home to be a little, I don't know, it's like kind of like aggravating to me. So I feel a little worn out, so to blow off some steam, I might hone an extra blade, put a little more extra time into something. Anyway, I'm really surprised at how nice a shaver this blade is. I mean, I kind of like that there was something about it, which is why I bought it. And I think maybe I spent a little bit too much money on it, but had good size, like a 15/16. And, but there was no issues, like no chips and cracks and none of that. And it honed up really easily. The original scales were, well, I had to make these, they're made out of G10. And now I kind of feel bad because I didn't throw my best effort at making these scales. Like in here, if you look, you can, like, I could have done better sanding. They fit right. Style is close to what the blade came up in, which was this weird kind of very fat over here and what have you. And so that part's all right. 1/16 G10, which I don't really like to work with. But it's incredible scale material. It's like resists everything. It's just impervious, and for an everyday blade, it's really hard to beat it. Yeah, you can put on nice horn scales and this and that, but I haven't really felt like cutting horn lately, and I don't like buying the junk horn off of eBay. I see a lot, I'm going to piss somebody off now, I know it. I see a lot of restorations using those horn scales you see on eBay, and it's like, could that be thicker? Could it be clunkier looking? And if you're happy with it, you're happy with it. It's just, to me, it's like, what I would do is I would buy them and I would slim them down. I would thin them up. And people tell me that the horn isn't all that stable all the time, so they're winding up with a lot of warped scales after they pin it up and everything. And I feel bad for those guys. You put your hard. I've done it myself. You put like a lot of work into scales, and then the material goes south on you. It's like, what? Okay, now I've lightened up my pressure that I started off with considerably. Do a little bit of a roll here and there. Something I haven't done in a long time is the reverse. I like to do that. Change the striations. Helps to knock off high points. Little tiny spindly fingers. The microscopic stuff. It's not, whatever. It's the stuff you mash down when you do stropping. But I don't want it to. So I do what I call a reverse X instead of. And these X, are extreme because I have that warp, and if it wasn't warped, I could just go like this. But I probably wouldn't be hitting as well as I am by doing it this way. They'll go round and round and round with style and technique, and after a lot of blades, you start figuring stuff out, and it just becomes automatic and second nature. Unfortunately for me, I don't always remember to tell you guys when I'm doing stuff like that, so I'm doing it now. Okay, I'm going to super light touch. Notice sometimes I put the heel forward, like way forward. It's always a little forward, but this is like, there are people who hone like this, which I think is like kind of stupid. But I do like to use what I call an extreme heel forward. Again, it changes the striations and it helps knock stuff off. And I think it's enough of an angle where I can keep, you know, the wear on the stone somewhat even. So this is really starting to feel correct to me now. Yep. Feels good. So that's that. Great stuff. So, just want to do some honing, talk about some paste, show you a nice Nagura or two, show you a couple of blades, other stuff that's going on. Besides I just finished this. Very nice razor. Been some new 8/8s in my life recently. Got this Boker 8/8, very difficult to find blade. I'm so happy I found this. The scales were a nightmare, just a nightmare. They're just like completely crazy. Had these really cool collars. They're like a flower shape, and I'm pretty sure they're brass. Very hard. But I added this third pin to hold into place. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I open this up. Here. Now you can see, like, right there, that there's a block of G10. The plastic is just too flimsy. I don't know if it's too old or were never good or what, I don't know. But they were like twisty, turny, bendy. The blade was banging into it. It was just driving me nuts. So, and bent, very warped. So I put a lot of time into these scales. I don't know if they're original. They could be, they might not be. I don't know about those collars, but I wanted it to stay the way it was when it arrived. But I mean, it's a Boker 14, an 8/8 Boker. Like, I had it celebrated a while back. It was new. I think I got it in like 2012. And I liked it, but it had this work on the spine that I didn't like how it felt on the strap. And I sold it. Like a dumbass, I sold it. And now I wish I had it back. Never should have sold that blade. But I did. So that's that. I got this Boker. I got this Dovo. Another 14. Solgen 14, right? And this is sterling. This is just like literally to freaking die for. It's a Fritz Brocht era, pre-50s probably. But again, grief with the scales, bending, twisting, and all that groovy stuff. And it also had some grief over here. The scales were like starting to crack and fissure. So what I did with these, you might have saw it on my Facebook page or in the group. I forget where I posted it. But I fused a thrust washer into the scale over those fissures to try and make sure that they don't grow or get worse, hopefully stabilizing it. And then last but not least, another 14, a fill. Very old, pre-50s, first run of Double Temple. has J&P in the edge, but you can't see the edge because it's been restored and buffed out, and it probably had some rust. That I definitely had some rust. I could tell by the way it was restored. But I haven't sharpened, I haven't honed this. I can tell it's like going to be really good and probably felt much better to me than the first fill that I owned, or the what do you call it, the shorty that I did, which was nothing to sneeze at. That was a good blade. But anyway, people go crazy about them. I like heavier, thicker grinds, but lately I've just had this thing for some flimsy or flimsier, full hollows. I tell you though, this Boker is kind of stiff, and this Dovo was also kind of stiff for a full hollow. Someone on my page, I forget who, said it looked like an extra hollow. It feels like a 3/4 hollow on my face, and that to me is a good thing. So I'm really stoked about this I'm stoked about all three of them, to be honest. And then last but not least, this is new. And you can see that 8/8 Revisier. So I have some work ahead of me and some stuff to show you coming up, obviously, and more stones and this and that. But I just want to do something because, people stuck at home, they're probably watching more videos. Pass on a little more honing information might go a long way during these times. I'm confident that we're going to get through this a lot more quickly than a lot of news agencies have been trying to tell us, we're going to have to deal with. I just don't believe we're being told the truth by our media. I think they're all just panic-stricken, lost their minds, and no longer know what the truth is. They just talk disaster and pontificate and fearmonger. That's my take on it. It's not even a political thing. It's just I've been bashing the media my whole life, so this is nothing new. When I was in high school, I took a class called mass media, and so that was like 1975. So since then, I have literally been anti-media. So there's that. Anyway, let me put these guys back here. Got some blades, right? Wow, look at that, falling over everywhere. This stuff is about having fun. You're stuck in the house, do some honing, get some good shaves in. Don't let being at home take you away from daily shaving. They call it clean shaving for a reason. So, hey, the way I see it, every time I take a shave, I'm pitching in on flattening the curve. You could do the same, all right? So listen, get out there, have some fun. Well, don't get out there. Stay home and have some fun and get some good honing time in. And remember, first things first. This is about having fun, so keep it fun, all right? Take care. Talk to you soon.